The average person spends between 4.5 and 8 hours a day on their phone. And this is no accident. Companies use a mix of data and psychology to keep users absolutely hooked to their products. Here's how they do it. First is the removal of stopping cues. This is a type of choice architecture or design that removes the signal that tells your brain to stop. An example of that is infinite scrolling. So, how does it work? In a 2012 study, 44 people were recruited to eat a soup-only lunch and fill out a questionnaire. They were broken up into groups of 4, where 2 bowls slowly refilled and the other 2 were normal. So, what would you guess happened? The experimental group ate 73% more food than those in the control group and also reported not feeling any more satiated. Visually seeing the soup level go down until it's gone is a type of visual stopping cue that tells your brain to stop. And sometimes our brains can overly rely on these visuals that can lead to overconsumption. Social media is no different, which is why most of them have infinite scrolling. It's a trap made to feel like you never get caught up. So something in the outside world has to physically pull you out of this haze to remind you that it's time for bed or I have to go eat dinner. Casinos also use this same trap to keep people gambling, which is why you never see clocks or windows in a casino. The second one is default bias. This is where settings like autoplay, recommendations, and in-app notifications are automatically turned on, and you have to figure out how to turn them off. And apps like Reddit are the absolute worst for this, where they have a dozen different kinds of notifications that you have to turn off individually. There's no one button to turn off all in-app notifications, and that's by design. So how do they know it works? In 2023, there was a study that looked at the differences between opting in and opting out of sharing your health data. People who were asked the top responded with an opt-in rate of 21%, and the bottom group was 95.6%, meaning almost everyone who saw the bottom question allowed their data to be used. Another way to look at it is having an extra step to say no was enough to change 70% of people from no to yes. And companies know what works and what doesn't because of a system called color coding. This is where developers would run tests on the games by changing small parts of a mission to see what caused players to play longer and longer. Like, do people play longer if they're doing a mission where they rescue someone or rob someone, or when to send notifications? The third thing is pull to refresh, which works a lot like a slot machine. You perform a very simple action and you don't know what you're gonna get. Sometimes it's nothing, sometimes it's boring, and sometimes it's exactly what you had hoped for. The uncertainty of what the result is gonna be is called a variable reward schedule. Your brain predicts maybe this time will be something good, but when the reward is way bigger than you were expecting, you get a huge firing of dopamine neurons in the brain. Not because the reward was huge, but because it was so much better than you expected. This teaches the brain, whoa, we need to keep doing that.
Okay, that's
so
amazing.
Dopamine reward, that neuromodulator is a window for superplasticity, and evolutionarily it makes sense. Like, oh my goodness, there's
right.
abundance here of something.
Time to learn something
That's
new.
right. So what we're basically saying here is that if a kid gets a strongly reinforcing experience, I'd be willing to bet both arms that the neural circuits that help generate whatever behaviors led to that experience are going to be strengthened in one trial, to the extent that it will be very easy to generate those behaviors again.
This is why you can refresh 5 times in a row, even when the first 4 gave you nothing. But there's actually a second important detail. Even the act of pulling down to refresh creates the anticipation, the suspense that a reward is coming, and that will also activate your brain's dopamine reward system. So pull to refresh is an on-demand dopamine roulette where we keep chasing that next big win. Number 4 is feedback signals. So we just talked about the reward system, where receiving and thinking you're going to receive a reward activates dopamine in the brain, which is really key to creating these repetitive behaviors. But in order for this to work, our brains have to be trained to say this specific feedback signal equals reward. So how do they do it? In the 1890s, a researcher named Ivan Pavlov did a now very famous study on dogs, which also happens to be one of my favorite scenes from the TV show, The Office.
This scientist who trained dogs to salivate at the sound of a bell by feeding them whenever a bell rang. So for the past couple weeks, I've been conducting a similar experiment. Altoid?
Sure.
Intoid?
Input?
What?
I don't know. My mouth tastes so bad all of a sudden.
Each time Dwight heard the sound, he was given an Altoid. After enough repetition, all it took was hearing the sound for him to stick his arm out and expect an Altoid. And social media works the same way, but with one small detail. Their platforms are packed with dozens of these feedback signals that mean reward to us. Once your brain has made that link, that feedback signal now becomes rewarding. Now that your brain has made that connection, variable reward schedules make sense because now your brain knows what's a big reward and what's a small one. Also, have you noticed how they're almost always red? That's not a coincidence. That's because red is the most psychologically arousing color. If you're learning from or enjoying this video, please do me a favor and like and subscribe. And also, thank you, because that goes such a long way to support the channel. Now, number 5. Number 5 is gamification. Gamification uses rewards and feedback signals to make your behavior feel like a game, but adds one important element. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about if you've ever used the app Snapchat and kept up a really high streak with one of your friends. At some point, you probably stopped sending chats and pictures and focused a lot more on just keeping the streak alive. People would go as far as using their friend's phone to log into their accounts just so they can send a message to not break the streak. Gamification is an effective trap because it combines rewards and feedback signals with loss aversion, where stopping is no longer neutral. Stopping means that something completely resets or disappears altogether. I would also argue this is exactly why stories only last 24 hours. Because if you don't log in, or if you stop logging in, you forever lose the chance to see them. Number 6 is perceived social validation. This is our need to feel accepted or like we belong. I saved this one toward the end because this one combines almost everything we've talked about except number 7. In 2016, UCLA ran a study on 34 teenagers using an Instagram-like app. Each teen brought their own pictures and viewed them while laying in an MRI machine. What they didn't know was that the numbers were completely fake, and it didn't matter. Photos with more likes lit up the brain's reward system, and teens were more likely to like a picture just because other teens had liked it. This study highlighted how powerful peer influence and the perception of social validation are. And when you combine that with variable rewards, where you post a picture, maybe only gets a few likes, but the next one you post gets hundreds of likes, that is enough to light up your brain's reward systems to keep you going back and chasing more.
Wait, make sure I understand this. You're saying, suppose a girl gets onto Instagram and she's now consuming stuff about being thin, and for some reason she finds this rewarding. Are you saying that the quick dopamine circuits, where she posts something and she gets likes for it, are you saying that that actually will extend neuroplasticity? The fact that she's getting more dopamine, rapid dopamine, that will make her more neuroplastic and her brain will change more?
Yes, it will accelerate learning for whatever contingency led to that, whatever led to that. But when it comes to social dynamics, we know that reward leads to almost what I would call runaway plasticity in the circuits that generated the behaviors that led to that particular reward.
Number 7, habit loops. Everything we've talked about works towards the sole purpose of creating unbreakable habit loops, which consist of cue, behavior, and reward. You receive a notification, so you go to check your phone in hopes that you'll be rewarded with likes, views, or comments. Eventually, a habit is repeated so many times that you don't even need a cue anymore. And what makes these traps particularly difficult is that they're actually part of multiple habits stringed together. A 2023 study on infinite scroll makes the case that there's actually 2 main habit types that keeps users stuck in these cycles of scrolling. This outer loop is the habit of opening up social media multiple times throughout the day. And this is usually triggered by a notification, email, boredom, or a habit. And these inner loops are those cycles where you check your notifications, then watch some stories, then you share some, and then you comment. And before you know it, it's been 30 minutes since you've been stuck in one of these loops. The other interesting thing that researchers highlighted was this term feature tour. It's a phenomenon I think we've all experienced, where you remember you need to send an email, but you get a text message, so you respond and then jump to Instagram, then Facebook Marketplace, but your friend responds with a TikTok, so you sit down and watch that before going back to your email, which was your original goal. These 7 traps make your phone so addicting, which is something they openly acknowledge. A former Facebook executive outright said the app intentionally exploits a vulnerability in human psychology. This is why kids of Silicon Valley elite go to schools like the Waldorf School of the Peninsula, where they are all phone-free because they know the effects of it. Knowing the traps set by platforms that make our phones so addicting helped me catch myself from falling into these loops of endless scrolling, feeling regret, and then doom scrolling. And if that resonated with you, just know you're not alone. This study from number 7 that looked at habits found that a lot of users feel regret from their social media habits, and this regret can lead to falling down the rabbit hole of regret. The good news is that studies have shown that our brains can actually recover from prolonged use. People can see benefits of getting off of social media in these platforms as early as 1 day, but ideally at least 1 to 3 weeks. When breaking up any bad habits, you have to also replace them with something. And what better way to replace them than with meaningful experiences? Which is why I made this video, which is a new way to visualize time to get you more meaningful experiences. This is Better Inputs. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm curious, to you, which was the most disturbing trap? Leave a comment below, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you back here for the next one.